This longtime prison employee said, I'd say 20 to 30% of the officers are dirty. They've made it nearly impossible to do my job. What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, I have a crazy video for you guys today. My friend went missing in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the BOP, and it has been over a year since I have heard from him. And the entire prison was shut down because of corruption. We have a lot to cover today. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who has served time in prison and now fights for prison reform. If you wanna follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever gonna be $2. All of that is linked down below. I am also a proud partner with groups Recover Together. They offer both online and in-person treatment. They strongly lean on harm reduction. They are 420 friendly and they are an amazing team of people. They're now available in 13 plus states and growing all the time. I'll leave my landing page with them in the description box of this video. All right, let's kick this thing off. Let's start with my friend went missing. It has been more than a year since I've heard from my friend. Thankfully, I heard from him yesterday, and some of you might be asking, like, how the hell can a person go missing in the BOP? It's easy, they don't answer the phones. When a prison goes on lockdown, that means every single inmate is in their cell, and these cells look like this. This is a picture of my friend in prison. Anyway, they're very small. This specific prison that he was at, USP Atlanta, was housing 3 men in a 2-man cell, and it is very claustrophobic and it's very difficult to maneuver around in that cell. But when they lock down the entire facility, they can't get to the phone, they can't get to the kiosk to email us, and we have no idea what's going on. They also stopped mail. They stopped mail. I would write a letter and it would get sent back to me over and over and over again, but the website still said he was at USP Atlanta. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. After a long time of trying to write him and getting my letters sent back and reaching out to his family, I started to call the prison. But USP Atlanta, they don't answer the phone. A lot of federal prisons don't answer the phone. It just rings and it rings and it rings and it rings. So the family members on the outside have absolutely no idea what's going on. And all of the communication with these inmates are completely shut down. They have no way of telling us that they're okay. With the pandemic, it made it even harder to know if our loved ones are okay or if they're safe. USP Atlanta specifically is one of the most corrupt prisons I've ever heard of in my life. And we're gonna get into that in a second. USP Atlanta is like known for going on lockdown. They get locked down all the time, and my friend has been there for years. We're gonna get into his situation in a second, but he had been there for years, and it was like every single time they would come out of lockdown, someone was getting hurt, shanked, and they were going right back on lockdown. It was such a dangerous place, and I was constantly afraid for his safety. He finally wrote me a letter, and it's crazy because when I got this letter, that's finally when the news broke about USP Atlanta being shut down, officers fired, because it's like the craziest amount of corruption I've ever seen. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna read you this short thing of what he described happened during the shutdown. As you can see, I got shipped. That means he was transferred from USP Atlanta to a different prison. They put us all under investigation and closed the jail, shipped us all. It's weird that inmates call prison jail, like it's federal prison. Anyway, it sucked. DEA, FBI, I swear to God, I saw Army General one day. They shook us down every day for a month, got rid of all the COs and brought in like this hit squad, no names on their uniforms, full masks, would come to your cell 20 deep, pepper spray you, shoot you with paintball guns filled with mace, then open the cell and run in and beat you up. I'm super pissed because I lost all my stuff. This went on for a month, and then I was put in the hole for 3 months, and then I was in the hole for a month at the new facility. And as you know, I was not given a phone call, mail call, or anything. It's been really for a few months. For my friend's privacy, I'm not going to say where he is or what his name is at all. Not even gonna give you guys a first name because it's just dangerous. Anyway, So the prison is shut down. And when I got this letter, you have no idea how relieved I was to know that he was okay. But let's talk about what I physically saw, because I was in communication with more than one inmate. This person is just my personal friend, but I do have acquaintances or associates that also serve time at USP Atlanta. And the last phone call that I received from USP Atlanta, now this is a prison cell phone, this individual called me on his prison cell phone, and you know, it was kind of a chill night at Atlanta. They were joking around, there was music playing. He held up what looked like a 2-pound bag of meth. And immediately I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Please be careful. This is dangerous. What is going on? I was immediately just really afraid for him. He said, don't worry, the market's so hot, I can't even sell it. They're not even gonna know I have it. You're telling me that the prison drug market is so crazy that you can't sell meth right now in federal prison? Like, what? And just to back up a little bit, this is something that I saw on a daily occurrence when I would video chat certain inmates at USP Atlanta. Not only did it have tons of drugs in it, it had tons of cell phones. So let me read you an article about the shutdown at USP Atlanta and how corrupt these officers are. Before I get into that though, I do want to shout out Larry Lawton. He did a full video on this as well. I'll put it right here. Larry gets really angry in this video, and justifiably so. He has personally served time here, and it has been corrupt for years and years. So shout out to you, Larry. I know how passionate you are. And this was just such a good video, and I love you to death. And I'll of course pin that video in the comment section down below. So if you just go to USP Atlanta on Google, click the news, you're gonna see tons of articles. I'm gonna read this one from the Atlanta Journal. An investigation into an alleged corruption at USP in Atlanta has led federal officers to ban several prison staffers and nearly empty out the prison, transferring 1,100 offenders to correctional facilities in other states, the Atlanta Journal said. As of Friday, 134 inmates remained inside Atlanta prison, according to the official website. Back in March, it had more than 1,800 inmates. Employees have been told that ultimately all prisoners from the penitentiary and inmates at the adjacent minimum security camp will be transferred. The prison went into an institutional lockdown June 22nd after receiving a serious threat, and the institution emergency was declared, a staff memo obtained by AGC states. 2 days later, an official with the Federal Bureau of Prisons told staff in a follow-up memo that lockdown was being extended after investigators discovered a prevalence of narcotics and cell phone devices being used by the inmate population. Bro, when I tell you this place had more cell phones than a freaking Verizon store, I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. The same day, a prison teacher found 24 cell phones, 30 chargers, earbuds, Under Armour long underwear, that's clutch, wrapped bundles of a leafy substance, Schmeed, assorted chains and necklaces, and 1 bottle of air freshener. It's gotta smell good, right? And that was just in the education department. A little more than 2 weeks later, BOP sent out memos notifying staff that 4 senior officers had been barred from the federal pen and should not be allowed entry under any circumstances. One complained that the Bureau of Prisons had gone nuclear in rooting out problem employees, while others said an overhaul was long overdue. I mean, like, since the beginning of time. We've been shouting from the rooftops for years and they didn't do a damn thing, said one longtime employee who fears losing his job if his identity was revealed. I want to take a moment and pause there. This officer that works inside of this prison is so afraid he's gonna lose his job. He doesn't want his identity even mentioned. He doesn't want anyone to know who he is, because speaking out against these people is going to get him barred. That's what he fears. So when I tell you that corruption is so gross inside of prisons, good officers go into work every day afraid that they're gonna lose their job, afraid that they could lose their life, afraid for so many different reasons. And the bad officers just rule that prison. If you speak out against your coworkers, you're barred. If you try to do the right thing by inmates and they're mad because this officer was gonna give you a phone and the good officer tried to step in, you're killed. I mean, it's just such a serious situation. This is why we have to get bad officers out so good officers can do their freaking job and not be worried every single day. The Bureau of Prisons did not respond to a request for comment. Why would they? Why would they? They've known about this problem for years and years and years. In Larry Lawton's video, he said that he did time there in like the freaking 90s and was bad. Ugh. Evidence has piled up in recent years with lax security at the complex, with lapses blamed at times on inadequate staffing. For years, some inmates at the minimum security prison camp would come and go through a hole in the fence. Bro, what? Could you imagine if you just like were driving past the prison and you just saw this inmate just walking free. A shuttle service was allegedly set up by inmates to transport other camp prisoners to local restaurants, where there were no arrests until 2017 when the FBI and police stationed officers on the other side of the fence line to greet inmates on their way out. That was a serious problem. Prisoners used cell phones for everything from self-incriminating Facebook live streams to allegedly operating a drug trafficking organization from a prison cell. A review of the facility's video monitoring system revealed the staff were able to enter the facility during the night shift and walk around the metal detector without being screened. After discussing the matter with BOP personnel at the facility, we were concerned that this presents systemic concerns. The longtime employee said some guards would come in with backpacks and duffel bags that were never searched. The source told AGC a carton of cigarettes would be worth $1,000. Parcels of meth would turn up hiding places all over the prison. Those hiding places existed all over the prison and have taken a toll on the infrastructure, the longtime employees said. It'll be up to the prisoners who stayed behind to tackle the physical rehabilitation of the facility that in January turns 120 years old. The plan is to receive approximately 250 low-security inmates to serve as work cardi for the entire USP, to include outside areas, BOP said. While offenders are ultimately expected back, that same answer sheet said, at this time, officials were unaware of any plans to shutter the prison for good or to assign staff to other Bureau of Prison facilities. They went nuclear instead of being surgical, one Lieutenant wrote on Facebook. He kept his job, he said, because he's so close to retirement. Most of his colleagues in the lieutenant class were transferred elsewhere. They have ruined lives and put an incredible stress on families, said the lieutenant. The AGC is not naming him because he could not be reached for comment. This is where it gets crazy. The longtime prison employee told AGC there's a lot of good people who are being forced to leave, but too many were not on the up and up, he said. I'd say 20 to 30% of the officers were dirty, and that's just totally unacceptable. You're going to have a few. Most prisons have 1 or 2, maybe 3 bad apples, not a quarter of the staff. Complaints topped officials from the warden on down largely went unanswered. It made it nearly impossible for me to do my job, he said. Nothing is crazier than chatting with an inmate on his prison cell phone and you see him hold up a bag of meth, a huge one, a couple pounds. That is so concerning to me. It genuinely was like a free-for-all in there. It was a free-for-all. Everyone was live streaming. Everyone was on cell phones. A lot of people wanted to talk to me because I have a prison channel. So a lot of inmates were very excited to get on the phone with someone that has a prison YouTube channel and share their experiences. A lot of those people wanted me to make a video on the living conditions that they had to deal with, like the 3 men and 2 man cells and COVID protocols and how, they're on lockdown and they can't communicate with their families. They wanted that video out, but they didn't want the video about the cell phones and the drugs out, right? Because it's a free-for-all and they're making tons of money in there. These corrupt officers will sell a carton of cigarettes for $1,000. A prison cell phone right now in the federal BOP goes for like $3,500. A cell phone, a cheap Amazon track phone that costs like $50 goes for $3,500 according to my source in federal prison right now. So that's crazy, and that's why these officers do it, because they're making a ton of money off of these inmates. And I know a lot of people over the years have said, well, Jess, why the hell would an officer risk his job? Thousands of dollars on a $15 phone or $50 phone or however much these cheap phones cost, when they can make thousands of dollars, that's why they're gonna do it. A cell phone is something that an officer is obtaining through legal means. It's not like he's giving them drugs. Now, obviously, the more risque situations involve drugs, and that obviously is worth a lot more money. But in my personal experience in prison, corruption starts small. I would say that statement by that officer where he said usually it's 1, 2, maybe 3 bad officers in the prison, it's not a quarter of the staff. I would say in my personal experience that is also true. You might have 1, maybe 2 that are gonna sneak some things in for you. Maybe it's cigarettes, maybe it's a phone eventually, but it starts small. And then when that officer sees like, oh my gosh, I can make thousands and thousands of dollars, the more risk that I do, maybe it's just weed, maybe it's this or that. If I bring in this and I can make more, I'm gonna do it. So these officers get greedy and they're willing to risk their jobs to make a lot of money. And that sounds crazy, but it's true. So what can we do to cut down on violence in prison? What can we do to make it safer for staff and inmates? Give them more privileges. What? Why would you do that? That sounds insane. It's statistically proven when inmates have something to look forward to, violence stops. Now, this is gonna sound like a completely radical idea and people are gonna think I'm absolutely insane for saying that inmates should have this, but inmates should have this. Conjugal visits. Oh my God, I'm a lunatic, I know. Conjugal visits are not just for sex. Conjugal visits help keep families together because this is a very stressful situation, not only for the person that's in prison, but for their entire family, okay? So conjugal visits are not just about sex. It's about a family, maybe it's a wife or a husband and a kid spending the weekend with this inmate. And it is statistically proven that when we offer conjugal visits, violence reduces. If these inmates have something to look forward to, like seeing their family, like waking up next to their loved one, seeing their kid, making dinner with them in these like little trailers or mock-up or little apartments, that gives them something to fight for. They're less likely to get in the mix. They're less likely to get into a fight. They're less likely to want to smuggle things in because that's risking their family time. Also, give them tobacco. I know. Larry mentioned this in his video that he said, you know, the prisons took out tobacco. That was one of the worst things you could have ever done. It's not about the health and the safety of inmates. It's not. They don't care about that. I promise you they don't. It's just about control. So give them tobacco back because guess what? They're getting it anyway. When you take something out of a prison and you stop regulating it and stop selling it on commissary, inmates are going to get it anyway. We've proven that in the article that I've read today. Inmates are going to get it. Allow them to have that. Allow them to have these little privileges. Maybe it's a TV in your cell. Things like that will cut down on violence. Maybe it's a musical instrument. Not all prisons allow guitars in the unit, a piano. And while these things sound crazy, like why would you do that? Inmates deserve nothing. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Inmates shouldn't get privileges. If you're a person that thinks that, then you're completely missing the entire picture. Most of these people have release dates. And what we're doing right now is we're abusing them and we're traumatizing them and we're giving them nothing. They have nothing to look forward to. Their families are breaking apart on the outside. They come home to nothing. And then we tell them, don't break the law or sell drugs. Get your life together. Why is it so hard? It's so hard because everything is falling apart. Their mental health, their family, etc. So in my opinion, what we can do to end violence and corruption inside of prisons is give the inmates more privileges. I'm very curious as to what's gonna happen with USP Atlanta. I will absolutely keep you guys updated if you guys want me to. I'm also very glad that my friend is safe and he's okay. And I hope to hear from the other inmates that were shipped out that I talked to. My heart goes out to all of the family members that has lost someone in USP Atlanta. It was an every week thing that I would hear about stabbings and someone getting hurt or even passing away, and my heart goes out to you. If you have a family member or loved one that did time there, or if you have done time there, my thoughts are with you. I'm gonna end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you, because there is no wrong way to recover. And I will see you all in my next one.